Today we're going to talk about combining like terms dealing with equation. Combining like terms means there's going to be more than one coefficient and variable in our problem. So here, if we look here, our very first thing we do when we see an equation is read it. So we have 2 times w plus 5 times w plus 6 equals 48. If you notice here, I have 2w and 5w. W's are both the same, and we have coefficients, so that means we can combine these two. These are called like terms. Since they both have w, they are called like terms. So when I go through, I circle my variables and coefficients. I have 2w. Remember, as we said before, the positive belongs with the 5, so positive 5w, and then I can draw my river. Again, we're talking about combining like terms. Look, we have two terms that are both circles, so that means that they can be combined or put together. So 2w plus 5w is kind of like saying 2w's plus another 5w's. How much are those in together? So we have 2 plus 5 is altogether 7w. So 7w plus 6 equals 48. Our goal here is to get it into an equation where we're familiar with. We've done two-step equations a lot, and so this is something that we already know how to do. Now we go through the steps again. I read it. 7 times w plus 6 equals 48. I circle my variable and coefficient. My river's already here. Now how do I get rid of plus 6? Subtract 6 from both sides. These cancel. I bring down what I circled. 7w equals 48 minus 6 is 42. Now I need to get w by itself. That's my goal. So how do I get rid of the 7 in front of the w? I divide both sides by 7. They cancel. So w equals 6. And don't forget to check your answer. So here I'm going to check the answer for this one, but I probably won't do it for the other one. So now I substitute 6 in for every time I see w. And I see it twice here, so I have to put it in twice. So the check is 2 times my 6 plus 5 times my w, which is 6, plus 6 equals 48. So I go through and I start multiplying for GMDOS. So 2 times 6 is 12, plus 5 times 6 is 30, plus 6 equals 48. Again, we move from left to right. So 12 plus 30 is 42, plus 6 equals 48. 42 plus 6 is 48 equals 48. So check, it works out. This one, if you notice, we have distributive property. We went over distributive property when we were talking about multi-step equations, so you should already know how to do this. So we're going to just dive right into it. Here I have 9 times the quantity, 3 times x plus 2, in quantity plus 5 times x equals negative 14. So I start by using the distributive property. It's always first. So 9 times 3x is 27x plus, bring that straight down, 9 times 2 is 18, and then bring the rest down too, plus 5x equals negative 14. So now we solve it just like we've been doing before. We circle our variables and coefficients and draw our river. So here's a variable and coefficient, 27x. Remember, 27 is your coefficient, the number that comes before the variable. Here, don't forget that positive belongs to the 5x. Whatever the sign is before the number, it belongs to it. So this goes together, and then we draw our river. Now, if we look, we have two terms that have been circled, so they can be combined. They're like terms, so we combine them together. They both have x. So now we do 27 plus 5x, which is, so 32 times x plus 18 equals negative 14. I circle my variable and coefficient. My river has already been drawn for me. So how do I get rid of plus 18? I subtract 18 from both sides. These cancel. So now I have negative 32 equals, bring down the 32x, and I divide both sides by 32. So x equals negative 32 divided by 32 is negative 1. Go ahead and check your answer too. Next problem. Here, this one's a little bit different than what we've seen before. If you notice here, we have parentheses, or the quantity of 4 plus 3 times x. Now, if you look here, there's a negative here. What we have to do, this tells us that there's distributive property. So we talked about this before. What's always invisible? If I don't see a number there, what's always invisible? Correct. It's a negative 1. There's an invisible 1 there. So that means I need to distribute or give negative 1 to both the 4 and the positive 3x. So I have to always do distributive property first. So negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. And then negative 1 times positive 3x is negative 3x. And I bring down everything else. So 15 equals 6 minus 4 minus 3 times x. I solve it just like before. I circle my variable and coefficient. But if you notice here, I don't have like terms that both involve a variable. Here, I didn't circle these two. These are what we also call like terms. They're both constants. So I can put these two together because they're both similar. So 6 minus 4 is 2. So now, remember, we circle the sign that comes before the variable and coefficient or before the number to tell us what operation it is. So that's 2 minus 3 times x equals 15. I solve it. I got it into a format that I'm already familiar with. So I circle my variable and coefficient again. And remember, this is negative 3x, not 3x. It's negative 3x. And how do I get rid of that 2? The invisible sign in front of the 2 is positive. So I subtract 2 from both sides. They cancel. So I have 13 equals negative 3x. How do I get rid of the negative 3? This is negative 3 times x. I divide both sides by negative 3. So x equals 13 over negative 3. Your answer does not always have to be a whole number or an integer. It can be a rational number, which is like a fraction.